We live in highly contentious times. Every leader has a list of people who are unhappy with their leadership. How do you deal with these people? Stick around, and I'll share with you 5 things you need to remember when people criticize you that can save your sanity, maybe even win you a friend. I'm Steve Petty, and I have 3 goals for these videos: to help you become a better pastor and leader, to save you time and money, and to help educate, motivate, and energize you so you can motivate and energize your church. If you find these videos helpful, I hope you'll subscribe to my channel, and if you have questions or comments, you can add them below or email me at steve@revstevep.com. Welcome to Coffee with Coach. Today I want to talk about something that everybody has to deal with, and no one really likes to deal with: reacting and dealing with criticism. First, think about it. Everyone has critics. Especially if you're a leader, you're going to have critics. You know you're not perfect. You just hoped other people wouldn't notice that you weren't perfect. But they do. They do notice. So let's accept 5 basics to start. First, humans have opinions. If you're not clear about that, go back to this discussion Adam and Eve had about the apple. Second, none of us are perfect. Even Jesus had this argument he lost with the Canaanite woman over dinner. Third, sometimes our mistakes are public, especially if you've been on Zoom. Fourth, sometimes people will tell us about our mistakes. They noticed, and they want me to know that they noticed. It doesn't get much worse than that. Fifth, the problem really becomes, how do I respond to those conversations? Because I'm actually free to respond in any number of ways. There are 5 key ways people respond. You can listen and learn. You can not listen and ignore. You can get angry and fight back. You can enlarge the conflict by involving other people. Or you can internalize the hurt and get depressed and defeated. Notice that only one of those choices will actually improve things. The others will make things dramatically worse. So how do I listen and learn? I have 5 key ways you can listen and learn effectively, and things to do about it. So first, listen carefully. Invite your critic to spend some time sharing their feelings and thoughts in depth. Don't just let them waylay you on the way out of the church or on the sidewalk or in the parking lot. If they have a valid criticism, suggest that you actually sit down and discuss it so that you have time to fully understand. Give them some time to share their feelings and their thoughts in depth. So set a time and a place to meet so you can both share fully. Second, listen for several things. Is this accurate? Don't argue back, just note that for later. Is this really about me, or are they telling me more about them? Usually it's the latter. So what are they really telling you about themselves? Is this more logical or more emotional? And how can I separate those? I mean, both are okay. Just know which is which. You can appreciate their logic, but you can really only acknowledge their feelings. You can't feel them. Lastly, is this personal? Are these I statements, or is this some nebulous we, or there are others? Ask them gently to keep it to I statements. You can only really listen to one person. You can't listen to the whole group. Number 2, recognize your feelings. I didn't say give in to them. I just said recognize them. You might be feeling any number of things. You might be angry. You might be defensive. You may be sad, maybe defeated, maybe depressed, maybe happy, maybe appreciative, maybe even loved and supported. How are you feeling? Take a moment in the midst of it all to feel it and to recognize how your feelings are progressing as the conversation goes along. Don't necessarily give in to them. Try to stay logical and rational, but recognize that you're having feelings. Stay calm, breathe, respond from your logic, not for your feelings, but be willing when you're alone to revisit those later. Maybe they criticize you in a way that is fully loving and supportive and encourages you in positive ways. Would that they all did that. Then acknowledge that with sincere appreciation. If you're feeling attacked, dismissed, or threatened, then quickly move to end the conversation. Acknowledge that you've heard them, share that you will consider it over time, remain polite, even if they aren't, but disengage immediately. Third, validate the criticism. And by validate, I mean determine whether or not it's valid. Can you validate this criticism? Is it something you did that was wrong and you know it? Well, then admit it. It was a mistake. We all make mistakes. Thank them for taking the time to share with you. Do they have suggestions for how you can correct it? Be gentle. Hopefully they're gentle. If you're unsure about its validity, can you ask a trusted friend to tell you if this is something that you did? Do they have ideas about how you might fix it? If they convince you it was your fault, then own it and get back to the critic and make amends. If you are sure this is not something you can own, and your trusted friend agrees you didn't do this, it's not yours, it's not your fault, then we go to number 4. And number 4 is, consider the source. What do you know about this person? What is going on in their lives right now? Are they under stress? How are their relationships, their finances, their family issues? Are they really telling you more about themselves than they are telling you about you? Who can you talk to so you can verify what is happening with them? Have you been ignoring their needs? Do they need special help? How can you respond pastorally? And 5th, respond appropriately. Resist the temptation to escalate the conflict, avoid fighting back or getting defensive, stay calm and rational. If this was a blatant attack, perhaps it's better to write a note. Thank them for taking the time to share, tell them you are still considering what was said, but make no promises. If there was some validity, but there are other issues, again, write a kind, generous letter or a note. Thank them for taking the time to talk. Assure them you are working on correcting some of those parts that you can own. If you had to talk to a trusted friend who felt you were not at fault, then consider a further meeting with the 3 of you to discuss how best to understand those issues. This goes back to Matthew 18, verses 15 and 16. If you can't really own any of it and feel that the real issues are theirs, consider this a pastoral challenge. When and how can you love them, even though they've attacked you? Jesus teaches us to love our enemies and pray for those who persecute us. So pray for them. Pray for your own guidance. Pray for wisdom and compassion for yourself. And find a way to love them and help them. When people are critical of you or even attack you verbally, they initiate the discussion thinking they are in control. So you must be in control of yourself. Don't let them dictate how you will react. Listen carefully. Recognize your feelings. Can you validate the criticism? Consider the source and respond appropriately. If you do that, you'll deal effectively with criticism and you won't let it shoot you down or defeat you. Next week, I'm going to share a special video with you. I was fortunate to spend some time with the Eastern Pennsylvania Bivocational Pastors meeting. We talked about how to lead a small church. So I'm going to be editing that Zoom video and bringing it to you in slightly briefer form, but I think you'll find it interesting as we talk about leading a small church. I hope you found that video helpful, talking about dealing with criticism. In fact, I hope you find all of these videos helpful, and I do appreciate it when you subscribe. You can just click that little channel over there. If you have questions or comments, you can email me or you can add them below. Next week, leading a small church in eastern Pennsylvania. That's it for this week. See you next week on Coffee with Coach.